Welcome to Living the Smarter Science of Slim, where we provide a scientifically proven lifestyle for long-term health and fat loss by eating more and exercising less, but smarter.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that.
Hey everyone, Jonathan Bailor here with another bonus Smarter Science of Slim podcast. Very excited about today's show because we have a wonderful fitness enthusiast, trainer, streaming workout provider, and just general provider of Southern hospitality when it comes to the health and fitness world. We have none other than Suzanne Bowen of SuzanneBowenFitness.com. Suzanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Well, Suzanne, I was giving you a little bit of a hard time before we started this show that I detected a just wonderful, ever so slight Southern accent in your voice. And I mentioned that only because I want to start the show off talking about the growth and development from little Suzanne to the Suzanne we see today, who's providing all this wonderful workout information. And what got you from there to here?
Well, I grew up in a small town in Alabama, and I always wanted to live in New York City. That was always my goal. And I found myself there in my 20s as a flight attendant. And I had studied interior design in college, but I found that I was buying all the fitness magazines and not the design magazines that I could. And I was also reading a lot about health, Dr. Andrew Weil's books. And I changed my career path and started studying fitness mainly in the early 2000. So I went to interview for a job at the Lottie Burke Method Studios in New York City. I didn't know what that was. It was a small, it was a 5-floor studio on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and I had never heard of Lottie Burke. I couldn't even pronounce it. And I went for a receptionist job and interviewed and ended up meeting one of the instructors who said, "What is your goal?" I said, "I want to teach fitness. I'm just trying to get my foot in the door." She put me through a process of auditions, and I became an instructor there. And that studio is the original barre studio in the United States. So if you've heard anything about barre fitness, it's a huge phenomenon. It's a huge trend in fitness now. There are so many different barre techniques, including my own barre amped. And I was there in the original studio, and that's where I got my start, and it was pretty incredible.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about the barre technique and why the promise that it offers?
Well, the barre technique comes from a fusion of different methods: ballet, modern dance, Pilates, yoga. So you get the precision and the mind-body connection of Pilates, and you get the mental mind-body connection of yoga, and then you get these great strength moves based on dance. And so some techniques are a little bit more, big range of motion, maybe more cardio minded, where my technique is a lot more focused and controlled, at least in the beginning. The muscles are fatigued very fast. So we get into, say, the quads, what we call it thigh work. And so you get in these positions and you fatigue the muscles in 5 minutes. And it's like you don't let the muscles have a break. They're just these small, tiny movements. And I guess, that's what works. I mean, that's why it works. And it creates beautiful shape in especially a female's body. And I've never seen anything change a woman's body like barre. So.
Well, and Suzanne, what are your thoughts on? It seems like so much of what we hear about in terms of the fitness world today, you used a word in your description of your method that I love, but I think is so underplayed, and that is precision. And the idea of, if we're trying to, not only let's look at it from a health perspective. Like, from a health perspective, you don't just you don't just do anything for your health. Like, you wouldn't just take a pill. You would be very precise. Like, if you're going to take a pill, well, one, you might, why are you taking the pill in the first place? But if you're going to take a pill, you're going to be very specific and precise about the prescription you would take. And when it comes to our body, if we're trying to transform the way our body looks or works, that's not about just doing any sort of movement or flailing around or like using a chainsaw.
Exactly.
It's precise. It's a sculpting, is it not?
Totally. And my method and the way I train is based on form first. So alignment and form is huge. It's you work at the level where you can perform the move well, but still be challenged. So instead of doing a push-up with poor form or without any thought, which is a lot of the way people work out. I mean, I see it, and I've seen it for, 12, 13 years now. It's all about form. So you're performing a push-up. Maybe your range of motion is an inch, but you can perform it well. You get strong in the right places and you keep your body safe, and you get really good, solid results. And then and only then you move on to the next level and to the next level. So that's why this method works, because you're in that precise, tiny range of motion where your joints the muscles around your joints get strong, your body, you stay in good form, and you not only do you stay strong and you get good results, but you're really attuning your mind to your body, which gives you that stress relieving benefit.
Well, Suzanne, it actually reminds me, ironically, we were talking about the alignment of many different methods, and there's a technique in more of a, let's call it a traditionally masculine realm of strength training that I know John Little, who co-wrote Body by Science with Dr. Doug McGuff, he talks about. It's called max contraction training, where you just find the most challenging but biomechanically correct portion of a movement, like whether it's a squat or a curl or push-up, and you just focus on that, like overloading that position. And again, it's very small, it's very controlled, it's very precise, because when you do that, you can focus on nailing the movement and safety. Absolutely. And you minimize all the other risks that could be involved. It's a risk-reward balance, right?
Right. That sounds almost identical to what we're doing. And what we do with my training is, once you can perform that tiny move well at the lowest point, at that most challenging position, and it could be 5 inches, like say you're doing a squat or you're doing what we call parallel in barre. You may be at a beginner at 5 inches down. So you bend your knees down about 5 inches with this incredible alignment. Well, the next 2 months, you may go down a couple more inches. Each person's little set point is lower or different, or maybe it's higher. It's always different. But once you master that, then you can move your range of motion a little bit to make maybe a little bit bigger. So you're continuing to challenge yourself, but you have to be able to maintain that form. So it's just form.
Well, and Suzanne, how do we help bridge this gap? Because right now I see there's maybe in the mainstream two predominant, maybe I might be giving them more credit than is due, but there's very, very active, aggressive movements. Like when you watch most people strength train, you're throwing things around, you're flipping things. It's just people getting hurt, or you're jogging, which means most people don't know how to run. And if they are running, they're running on pavement, and it's just like, oh my God. And then you have the other end of the spectrum, which is yoga, which I love, but is not is very, very, very different. There seems to be this thing in the middle, which is more of what you're describing, what some of my work describes, which is movement. It is resistance training. It does cause dramatic metabolic change.
Right.
But it is also that precise, deliberate, safe. It's a bit like cutting your hair very carefully with scissors rather than using a chainsaw to cut your hair.
Exactly. Well, I just don't see what I'm finding and what I've seen over the years as I've been in different health clubs, I've been in different arenas, and I've seen mainly women, because that's usually who, take my classes or they do my workouts. And I see them in these pounding classes, these boot camps, or, the running bleachers and flipping tires, and their bodies are not changing. And then you get them into this type of precise exercise, and it doesn't even have to be that long. They don't have to do hour-long classes. It's really a quality thing, and then they get these dramatic results. So it's pretty interesting.
Well, and that quality over quantity
paradigm.
Definitely. Like, to me, that is actually, I think that's the message of hope, because when you can show results in a fifth of the time, I mean, people are like, oh, okay, I'll listen now.
Totally. People are too busy to have to go out and do these hour-long crazy classes that they dread, or workouts, or I know so many people think, well, if I just need to pick up running. And I'm not against running. I'm not a runner myself, but I'm just like, give me 20 minutes, give me just try it. And maybe it takes 4 to 6 weeks to really see a difference, but it's huge. I've seen, just with the testimonials that we have with the barre amped method, it's just dramatic, the results that we see.
Well, and Suzanne, another thing that I wanted to talk about is on your website. You say, very clearly in your My Story section, I used to be obsessed with being thin.
Oh, yeah.
And I mention that only because if individuals visit your website, SuzanneBowenFitness.com, you are the archetype of female beauty. And I'm not just saying that to flatter you, although hopefully it's flattering. But I say that because you represent what I would consider modern beauty, which is not this waif-like, skeleton-like, starvation-like, like no one. And again, I'm going to speak for, I've never met another man who is like, wow, look at the ribs on that woman. That is so hot.
You sound like my husband.
That's if you even look more in like the animalistic side of the heterosexual male brain, curves are an important part of that across culture and across time. So one thing I struggle with is to me, it's not necessarily guys who are like, just be thin and waif-like, because a lot of guys like the curves.
Right.
But so how do we help to have a more healthy image of what healthy actually looks like?
I think especially women just need to be reminded. And so that's in my workouts, what I can continue to remind myself of, as well as the people that work out with me. It's not something that we can just overnight die to. It took a minute for me. I used to just be on this treadmill of perfection. And I remember just rationing out food and thinking, well, maybe one day I would be able to enjoy a treat, maybe more than a bite of a treat. And now I'm just like, I have a daughter now, and I'm like, you know what? We're not going to live under that anymore. It's not the truth. I really have done a lot of research on what the media, what the fashion industry, what the beauty industry sells us, and it's not the truth. So I think just educating us and ourselves on what beauty is and is not is really important, as well as being and feeding ourselves, feeding our bodies nutrients, and beginning to do fitness that feels good and makes us de-stress. Just kind of shifts, instead of trying to be on this quest for perfection and running yourselves into a tizzy, just finding things that you enjoy doing and really knowing that you're feeding your body what it needs versus, that's like, it's kind of a combination of things, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and it's interesting because I think it runs so deep, because certainly the pursuit of perfection is the quickest way for anyone to become unhappy, right? Like that, you want a guaranteed formula for failure, try to be perfect, because you can't. So, but even deeper than that, again, like individuals, if they see you, no one's going to see you and be like, you look, for all intents and purposes, perfect, at least on your website. So, the question then becomes, why, like, our image of perfection is like, what is it? Like, why is it so off base from what any actual person actually finds attractive or desirable? It's like, it's almost like, because the fact that you would even describe the state you are currently in as at least not approaching perfect sort of shows that there's still, I don't mean to like psychoanalyze you on the phone or anything.
That's cool. I'm thinking. It's making me think.
But that's what even my wife, like my wife is beautiful. Like I consider her perfect. I can imagine her being any more attractive than she is, but she wouldn't consider herself perfect. So like what's going on there?
I don't know. I think I'm like 90% better than I used to be. And I used to just be obsessed. And then, I had real struggles, and I met my husband who thought I was just amazing. And I think for me, once I had my children and I kind of lost every bit of who I thought I was, And then people, especially Levi, my husband, still loved me and wanted to hang out with me and be around me and thought it was beautiful. I realized like it's not just about that. It's not about how I look anymore. And I am not as young as I was when we met. I mean, my husband and I have been married almost 10 years. So I think it's just what I do is if you work out with me, you see that I'm not perfect. And I don't, I'm not struggling to be that way anymore. And I'm trying to embrace aging as well. So and I find that women, when they're told that as they work out, some women are not interested in hearing that. Some women do want the trainers that are like trying to help them be perfect. And I'm like, you know what? I have cellulite on my legs. That's just the way I'm made. I have done everything that I can do not to have it. But you know what? It's just, my husband doesn't care. He doesn't even see it. So it's like, so what? Live your life. Big deal. So.
Well, and I got to tell you, Suzanne, this is a little insight into my own psychology here, is there is nothing less attractive than a person who is continuously preoccupied with how imperfect they are, right? Like there's a difference between being quote unquote pretty in 2D with Photoshop, blah, 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 and being attractive in real life. Right. Those are very, very, very different things.
Exactly.
And it seems like, happiness is really about that pursuit of health, which then derives real life beauty and real life 3-dimensional. And I mean, not only 3-dimensional height, width, and depth, but also emotional, psychological, and spiritual beauty as well.
Yeah. And it's so important to understand that we're all shaped differently and it's okay. We just want to be the best that we can be without feeling like there's one little point or dot where we're going to be okay. It's like a range. And so that's my whole purpose in what I do. I really see women come to me who don't feel good about themselves. It's affecting their relationships. It's affecting maybe their marriage or their mothering or their career, or their friendships or whatever. They come and they feel like a positive impact, and it shifts into, and then they change. They kind of relax a little bit, and they go, hey, and they end up physically improving. But it's so much deeper than that, and it is a spiritual thing. It becomes like emotional and spiritual and physical all together, and it is positive because there isn't that perfection that's being sold.
Well, and Suzanne, you mentioned something there which was a bit like it's unique for the individual. And I got to tell you, the longer I've been on this earth, the truer and truer the following advice has become, and that's play the hand you are dealt. And what I mean by that is we all are handed different cards. And some people might start with a better set of cards, another set of cards or whatever, but how you play your cards and the cards you have make such a difference. This is a little story for me, which is going to sound a little silly, but I wanted to be a big professional football player. Like that was my dream. I wanted to play professional football. And Suzanne, I did everything except take steroids in the pursuit of becoming big and muscular. And then one day I said to myself, Jonathan, the hand I've been dealt is my body does not want to have a lot of muscle on it, but it also doesn't want to have a lot of fat on it. Right. So maybe if I want to spend time futzing with my appearance, if I enjoy that, just why not focus on that? Focus on maybe getting a little bit more cut rather than trying to be a little bit more muscular. Right. Just, again, work with the hand you're dealt rather than being like, trying to throw your cards back in and get a new set, because you ain't going to get a new set.
It's so true. I love that. I think it's great.
But as soon as you do that, I mean, like maybe you do, maybe you have a little bit more here or a little bit more there, but use that to your advantage. And it applies to every area of life. If you're a small company, that means you can move quickly. Right. Use that to your advantage. If you're a big company, that means you have a lot of money. So use that to your advantage.
True.
So even with us, it's like, play the hand you're dealt as best as you can. Focus on that, not wishing you had other cards.
Exactly. And relax. It's just not that important to obsess. It's not important. It's very much important not to obsess, but it's just so important that you don't miss out on the day that you have right now. It's like, enjoy that, do what you can to enjoy that now. Mm-hmm. So, and I have to tell you, my husband and I are such huge fans of your book.
Oh, thank you.
And completely changed the way my husband ate. I don't think he's had more than 2 grains since he read it. And I to the point where I was like, Levi, you need to eat like a little bread, man. You're getting so lean. he's so leaned out, and all he does for fitness is Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So he does that very, very dedicated. But it's just great, and it's really been impacting for us.
Oh, well, thank you, Suzanne. I really appreciate that.
I love, you know what I love about it? I love that it's carb minded, but it's really about nutrients and lean protein. I love that. So,
well, it was really interesting. I actually just recently had recorded a podcast, which I'm certainly excited to share with Dr. Joel Furman, who, which was a lot of fun. And the reason it was, I think, fun was, and I think the listenership will really enjoy it, is because we talked about, it's really not about saying like animal food is bad and plant food is good, or that plant food is good and animal food is bad, or that animal food. It's more about saying foods, not edible products, foods that provide the most of which you must eat, and the least of which kills you, are the best things to eat, and those can be found from a diverse array of sources, and like, let's focus on that. And even I think that macro principle of actually like focus on the ends, not the means, even for fitness. That's what we're talking about here. And loving yourself. Many people want to be quote unquote thin because they believe it will make them feel a certain way. Why not just feel that way? Like, bypass that and just go straight to the feeling.
I love it.
So the goal is not to be thin. The goal is to take actions that will make you achieve the emotional state you believe you will have once you are thin, if that makes sense.
Right.
Well, Suzanne, I feel cleansed after this. I feel emotionally healed after this call.
That's awesome. So do I.
Well, I love it. Well, Suzanne, this has been an absolute pleasure. And folks, if you want to learn more about Suzanne and in fact work out with her, you can, because she has a brand new streaming workout program on her site that works cross-platform. And she's just out there in the internet world breaking down barriers. I love it. I love it. I love it. And that website is SuzanneBowenFitness.com. That's SuzanneBowenFitness.com. And streaming workouts, all kinds of inspiration. Suzanne, what's next for you?
I am going on Home Shopping Network next weekend to launch the Bar Amp DVDs. So I'm doing that with Body by Jake. So Jake Steinfeld and I will be there. He's a legend in fitness, such a great guy. And I'm also going to be a guest fitness expert on 19 Kids and Counting, and that will air in June, but we're filming that on Tuesday. So it's a big week.
Oh, very, very cool. Well, congratulations with all that. And
Thank you.
It'll be a lot of fun. So wishing you all the best. And I hope we can
so much, Jonathan.
Have you back on the show, because it's certainly been a pleasure.
Love it. Yes, thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, Suzanne. And
bye.
See you. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did. And remember, this week and every week after, eat smarter, exercise smarter, and live better. Talk with you soon.
Wait, don't stop listening yet. If you like the podcast and if there's other ways we can help you, please join us in the Smarter Science of Slim support group, which is freely available at the Smarter Science of Slim website, smarterscienceofslim.com. There you'll find all kinds of free recipes and success stories and just all kinds of fun stuff, like how to help your kids go sane and just great community content.
And just one last thing before you go, if you wouldn't mind heading over to iTunes and up onto Amazon.com and leaving us a review, and then going over to Facebook and liking us, we would hugely appreciate it.